former Roanoke Park police officers charged with conspiracy to commit extortion and related charges in marijuana seizure scheme. Here we go, Prop 64. Okay, so apparently these two officers, they were actually assigned to this police department, and they were actually there throughout the actually from like the early 2000s to 2019, and in particular they were actually they were part of a operation team, that interdiction team, that actually was conducted the traffic stops on vehicles along Highway 101 up in California, in a program designed to seize illegal drugs. And they weren't necessarily at the same time, but they were actually they were in various times, depending on your scheduling, depending on your actual rank. Uh, they'll take you in and out of these actual teams, and they should do it periodically just to avoid these type of actual situations, you know. And according to the criminal complaint, described how these two individuals conducted numerous interdictions while on duty, in which they actually alleged to have extorted cash and significant amount of marijuana from victims' drivers that they stopped along Highway 101 by threatening to arrest them and seize the assets and marijuana if the victim drivers did not consent to the seizures. So basically, they're just stealing these loads, you know. And after taking these, stealing these loads, there was no actual paperwork, there was no report, there was no evidence of the actual seizures turned in. They were completely undocumented by the officers, contrary to the company policy or department policy, but were captured in audio and video footage on their body cams. So apparently, the actual supervisors, it might have been a small station, the actual the lieutenants, the captains, they had no interest in what these guys are doing out, because of the fact that they were gonna blatantly do it out with their body cams. They weren't really worried about actually getting caught that way, you know. And there was nobody actually looking at these actual videotapes. And there's numerous companies that actually do that. Just not unless something actually, a liability comes up, and they actually they'll review the tapes. And then if nothing ever comes up, nothing ever gets investigated. What's there to investigate if there's no complaint, right? So they'll just not even check these actual these body cams. And apparently, these seizures allegedly occurred even after that interdiction team, after even that program was already rubbed off the table. They were still conducting these type of actual uh, takeovers of actual loads. You know what I mean? And and you can set up a couple of good speed traps, you know, along Highway 101. You know, and apparently they extorted marijuana from a driver who was actually delivering for a dispensary. Actually, they named it as a dispensary lab, and they even had they had quite a bit. You know what I mean? Uh, apparently, on at this particular stop, they actually they were carrying 23 pounds of marijuana packaged in 1 pound bags, labeled by date and strain. That driver also had 4 crates of hash, all destined for a dispensary lab. So these guys were actually conducting their actual legitimate actual marijuana grow, cannabis grow business, and they committed the error by taking these actual lowdown, and that's how they became under the FBI's radar. You know, that's why they were reported to the FBI, because these guys were running a legitimate business, and that's quite a bit of low. That's a big loss for marijuana right there. You know, 23 pounds in the hash in itself. You know, and they got turned over, and so they apparently The press began reporting on robberies along Highway 101 by purported law enforcement agents. Oh, that's embarrassing. And specifically, the robbery that took place on that for that dispensary. This report indicated that the actual victims had been interviewed by the FBI, so they already they gave it. I mean, they helped the FBI actually nab these two actual officers, and that's a big thing. I mean, that's a big thing, and that's a real shock for you. Get pulled over in the U.S. and then get extorted like that. I mean, I don't think anybody's actually expecting that type of actual behavior from law enforcement. And of course, you also have to follow the money trail too. And they also got dinged by the IRS. And apparently, one of these actual officers, he actually he gave a down payment on a fishing boat, of the amount of 46,000 in cash, which that cash never came out of anybody or his family's accounts to make that down payment on that fishing boat. So, they were making they didn't make quite they didn't make it to quite a bit to a million, but something close to there. And now they got to report it to the IRS, and now they're going to get dinged that way too. So, um, I'll follow up on this, see what they're actually what the outcome, if they even get any time. Okay, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe.